So, question number one is, what was the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, and how was he a pre-incarnate form of Jesus? Or I should say, how is he a pre-incarnate form of Jesus? And so when you look at the Old Testament, you see that frequently, well, not frequently, but maybe, half a dozen times, you're going to come across the angel of the Lord. And it's when you see that and you're reading through it, you're thinking, okay, it's an angel because it says angel of the Lord, but at the same time as you're reading through it, all of a sudden you start to come up with that we're really not talking about an angel. Instead, we're talking about God. And so, okay, well, here is God, but God is represented in this form, a human figure, and the human figure is called the angel of the Lord. And so, the question is just, what is this angel of the Lord, and how is he going to be a pre-incarnate form of Jesus? Okay, and so when you look at this, the angel of the Lord, as a matter of fact, you see that when Abraham was at his tent, and the angels, the three angels, two angels and the angel of the Lord, came to him, and the angel of the Lord announced to him that Sarah was going to have a son, that the other two went on to Sodom and Gomorrah, but yet the angel of the Lord stayed with Abraham and, discussed with him about what he was going to do with Sodom and Gomorrah. So there's that. There is Abraham's handmaid, Hagar, how she fled from Abraham and Sarah when she was expecting, and how the angel of the Lord found her at a well. There is Jacob, as he was fleeing, he came across the angel of the Lord, and then when he returned, he came across the same angel of the Lord. Moses, we've got Moses in the burning bush, right? Okay, but when you read it, it says the angel of the Lord appeared in a burning bush. Okay, we've got Israel at the time that they had occupied the Promised Land, and in the period of the Judges, that the angel of the Lord came and talked to the Israelites. We have got Samson's father, Manoah. Forgot that name on Sunday. Samson's father, Manoah, and Samson's mother. The angel of the Lord came and announced to them about how Samson was going to be born and how they were supposed to raise him. And also David, if you remember, after he had sinned and had a census of Israel, and then the destroying angel was coming, that David came, and there we see another instance of the angel of the Lord. And so, there's all these different instances of this angel of the Lord. So let's take a look at a couple of these two, and let's see how these are undoubtedly God in these, all right? First of all, let's take a look at Genesis chapter 16 with Hagar. And like I say, when you read through this, sometimes it's a little bit ambiguous. And it's like, well, are we talking about an angel or are we talking about God? But when we look at these references, you're going to see that it really is talking about God, okay? And so in Genesis chapter 16, what we see is Hagar was fleeing with Ishmael because of Sarah's mistreatment of her. And as she was running away from them, what we see is that in verse number 7, it says, the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was a spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? I am running away from my mistress Sarah, she answered. The angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. The angel added, I will so increase your descendants that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now a child, this is before Ishmael was born. You are now a child, and you will have a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He will live in hostility towards all of his brothers. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Bir Lahai-Roi, and is still there between Kadesh and Bered. Now, you read this, and do you see how this is undoubtedly talking about God? I mean, she said it right there, right? She said it in verse number 13, "You are the God who sees me." Okay, and that's why she named that well, that phrase. And she went on to say in verse number 13, "I have now seen the one who sees me." And so this is undoubtedly talking about God. And what's more than that is that if you go on down, or excuse me, go back up, you notice it says, "Then the angel of the Lord told her, go back to in your mistress and submit to her." And so the angel said, "I will so increase your descendants that they'll be too numerous to count." And so this, blessing that God gave, an angel's not going to be able to do that, right? This is going to only be coming from God. Now, of course, I mentioned Moses, and so if we go on over to Exodus chapter 3, in Exodus 3, we see that Moses flees from, well, let me see if I can get over there. Okay, Moses had already killed the Egyptian. He's fled from the Egyptian. He's gone over to Jethro, his father-in-law, married Zipporah, so it's his father-in-law's house. He's tending the sheep. So this is that 40 years period where Moses is in the wilderness, and towards the end of it, it says, "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him, flames of fire from in a bush." Now, we know the rest of the story, right? Where God spoke to Moses from the burning bush and said, "Take off your sandals because this is holy ground." And this is where God told Moses that he was supposed to go back to the Israelites, to where Moses had some objections and Moses had some questions as well. But, when you think about Moses and the story of the burning bush, do you ever stop to think, no, that's not God? You don't, because, it obviously is God. And what we saw there in verse number 2 was, it says, "There the angel of the Lord appeared to him." Okay? All right. Now, going on over to the book of Judges. Let's see. Judges, I didn't write down the chapter, and so now I'm trying to think, where is this? Okay, chapter 13. Okay? Chapter 13 is, we see that there was a certain man of Zorah, in verse number 2, named Manoah. He's from the clan of the Danites. By the way, the Danites were a very, very small, inconsequential tribe in Judah at this point. And he's married. His wife is sterile. They didn't have any children. Verse 3, it says, "The angel of the Lord appeared to her," that is his wife, "and said that she was going to have a child. He told her the way that she and her husband needed to raise the child, which is in the way of the Nazarite." Okay? And so in verse number 6, it says that the woman told her husband, went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me." And so, is she recognizing that this is God at this point? No, she's not. She's just saying this is a man of God. In fact, she's not even recognizing that he's an angel, is she? Now she says, "He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from. He didn't tell me his name, but he said to me, 'You will conceive and give birth to a son. Now then, drink no wine nor other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite from God from birth and until the day of his death. And so then Manoah prays to the Lord, because he's realizing, hey, this is a special child, and I really don't know exactly what I should be doing to raise this child. And so he prays to have this man come back and explain some things to them. And so what we see is that the angel of the Lord comes back, and she goes out and tells her husband. Her husband comes back in verse number 11. Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, "Are you the one who talked with my wife?" "I am," he said. So Manoah asked him, "When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule for the boy's life and work?" Now, up to this point, does Manoah know that this is God? As a matter of fact, what is Manoah thinking? That he's a man, right? Because, I mean, that's how he's being addressed here. He came to the man. Okay, so in verse number 13, the angel of the Lord answers and explained a little bit more about what they were supposed to be doing. And so in verse number 15, Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "We would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you." And so this is customary in those days, that especially if somebody who is important, somebody who's going to be, from God, a man of God, that they want to go and give them some sort of meal. And so he says, "Can you stay and let us prepare this goat for you?" And the angel of the Lord replied in verse number 16, "Even though you detain me, I will not eat of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord." And notice it says Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. And so Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, "What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true?" Now, look at verse number 18, because this is kind of interesting. He replied, "Why do you ask me my name? It is beyond understanding." Okay? Now, another translation of that word beyond understanding is wonderful. Okay? And do you remember in Isaiah chapter 9, I believe it's verse number 6, talking about Jesus, that he is going to be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Prince of Peace. Okay? Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Okay, so Manoah took the young goat together with a grain offering and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar towards heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. And notice what his reaction is in verse number 23. "We are doomed to die," he said. "We have seen" what? God. And so the people at that day realized that the angel of the Lord is not just simply an angel. The angel of the Lord is a manifestation of God. Okay? Now, he's thinking, we're going to die because of this, because the angel of the Lord is fearful and awesome and amazing. But his wife said, wait a minute, if he meant to kill us, wouldn't he have already done so? It kind of makes sense, right? Why would the angel of the Lord appear to you, tell you what you're supposed to do, stay, talk with you, come back second time, stay, talk with you, tell you to offer a sacrifice, and then disappear. Then he's going to come back and kill you, right? That doesn't make any sense. And so, yes, women, sometimes you just have to, just speak clearly and plainly, and you can get it through our heads sometimes. Okay. Well, she did. Okay. And so you can see that, here's an example of the angel of the Lord. And so here we've got this pre-incarnate view of Jesus. All right, because when you think about God, and we're going to look at this a little bit later in another question, that Jesus is the image of the invisible God. And so who can see God, and especially, back in the Old Testament, who can see God and live? You can't, because of his glory, his might, his holiness, and our sinfulness. You can't come into the presence of a holy God and see him. And so that's why there's these expressions that's there. That's why there are what's called theophanies. And so here is the angel of the Lord, who is a pre-incarnate form of Jesus that is appearing to people in order to show this. Okay? And so we look at this and we get hung up on the word angel because we don't understand the meaning of the word angel. The word angel in both the Greek and the Hebrew means messenger. Okay? And so one thing that the angel of the Lord is doing, and what we see it here with Samson, is the angel of the Lord is there giving a message that's there. And if we would rephrase it, if we would actually translate the word instead of angel, if we would translate it messenger of the Lord, it would kind of clear things up a whole lot, wouldn't it? It's just the messenger of the Lord came and told Manoah, or came and told Moses or Abraham or whoever. Okay? All right. You got any questions or comments about that one? I can't hear you over Lindsay. That little chatterbox.
I said I didn't know all that, so it cleared up some things for me.
Okay. I think it's interesting. And I've always liked that story of Manoah and the birth of Samson, and just their reaction. They had absolutely no clue who it was they're talking to, and then all of a sudden, when they realized it, they had the completely wrong idea. Well, but I mean, that's the way that people thought, and especially. When you go back to Judges, the first part of the book of Judges, and you see how the angel of the Lord came to the Israelites I forgot, I think it's Bochum. When the angel of the Lord came there and told them and warned them about how he's given them law, how they're not going to follow the law, how he's going to curse them, it's you can see how they're thinking and associating the angel of the Lord with judgment. Okay? All right.